G'day guys, welcome back to Nemo Supercoach. Just thought I'd pump out sort of like a mid-round video. I've had a few things happen. So I've had a big injury to Sam Flanders, what a lot of the league will own. So I'm going to make some suggestions on how to navigate through your trades and where you go with dealing with that issue. I'll touch on the two games that have happened already. I've had two games pass. We had the Hawks and the Saints. The Hawks gave the Saints a bit of a hiding, and then you had a really good game between Carlton and the Cats, and Carlton getting the chocolate. So a few things to go over in both games, but the main thing is going to be how to deal with the Flanders situation and what I'm going to do with my team. And also, there was a few changes in my team from when I last made my round preview just because of Brady Grundy getting pulled out late and stuff like that. So let's have a look. And we also got the teams on Sunday. But before I go ahead, like, subscribe, comment, all of that. And I'll help you guys get through this little hectic. I feel like this is like a crossroads round. This is going to be a crossroads round with Flanders going out, basically affecting most sides, I'd say. Let's have a look at the ownership of Flanders. So he is in. Where can I check this ownership? Yes, he's in 56% of teams. So it's going to affect 105,000 teams. So I've got a feeling it's going to be a crossroads sort of part of the season where we go with this. So let's have a look at how to tackle this. So for me, as you can see, I've made us a tier list of where I think you should go, but they all come with a little bit of I should say they come with like a little bit of a caveat, or like it depends on your team situation itself. So for me, the first one is just let me have a look at the information I got on my end. So for me, it depends on where your team's situated, who you've already got. So, as you can see just down below, I think the two best people and the clear two best players to bring in for him are Petrarca and Sheasel. Okay, they're both coming off their bye. They're both going to be top two forwards, right? So if you don't have those guys, a lot of teams already have them. But if you don't, there's just a clear trade there. Like you probably, I think you almost have to go to that, right? You almost have to go to Petrarca and Sheasel because they are the clear F1 and clear F2 basically. After that, in our tier B, I've got Riley Sanders, Josh Tracy, Isaac Rankin, Keziah Pickett, Jack Ross, Shai Bolton, and Tuke Miller. So I'll talk through those guys. I really like the option of Tuke Miller because you can go straight to him this week. He doesn't have a bye upcoming. The thing that puts me off about Tuke is his role, obviously losing the centre bounce. Okay, you could. The other option and the option that I'm taking, Lord, I think is the best option because I have Petrarca and Sheasel already, is that I'm going to trade somebody into my midfield rather than trade someone into my forward line and come around to my forward line again. Reason being is that Sanders has a tricky bye, especially I already have Pickett. So bringing in Sanders is tricky for me in that last round. I would love to bring in Isaac Rankin, but obviously he has injuries, and I don't know if I'd bring him in this round. But I think in terms of replacing him eventually, I think Isaac Rankin's a good option. Tracy, I like. I think he's going to be a top six forward. I'm like convinced now with Tracy that I want him in my side. I think Shai Bolton has a really high ceiling and might be able to get together some consistency. Ross is an interesting one. So Ross is the one that I'd probably be most confident with in that pack if you're going to go to somebody next week. So, well, not next round, but like you'll have one round off and then bring him in after his bye, right? So the thing that I want to bring up though, and so we'll have a look at Jack Ross. He's having a really good season. He's probably going to be around that 520 mark, so you're going to need a bit of cash to get up to him. Flanders is expected to drop to about 476. So obviously he's been pretty consistent this year. Without that 52, he's been really consistent. Probably doesn't have the ability to have those ceiling scores. He's got 149 and a 129. They're definitely really good scores. A lot of these scores are against fairly easy sides and good matchups. Um, so Essendon, St Kilda, Adelaide, West Coast. North, I wouldn't say is easy, but then you got Freo top side and Carlton. So look, that probably means he's got a bit of a tough run upcoming. Mind you, then no one's going to really put attention into Jack Ross. For me, the concern is that if we have a look, his low scores have come in around, say, 2, 4, and 5, I'd say, or 2, 4, 5, 7. Let's have a look at his centre bounce attendances here. So you can see his lowest CBAs. What was it? Was it 2? Round, yeah, round 2, round 4, round 5, round 7. So round 2, 63% CBA, so that's a good number. Then round 4, you can see he dipped in CBAs, and the reason why he dipped in CBAs that game is because they gave him to Dion Prestia, and then they dropped the next week to 24. This is a bit of a mixture between Lawler and Prestia. Prestia ended up getting less as well. But then the next game, Prestia was back up, and that was round 7. I'm worried because Prestia is back this week. I'm worried. So I think this round, this is a really important game to watch for Jack Ross. I'd just be watching closely. If he gets the centre bounce attendances that we want and scores well against Sydney at the SCG, I'm completely convinced that he's a great option to bring in after his bye. So for me, he's probably the top of that tier list that I have in terms of that next bracket down. So that's what I'd be looking at. The other ones, Tier C, these all come with risk. They all got high reward though, most of them anyway. If they pay off, Max Hall I think is a good option if he keeps his role when Nas comes back. I think he'll average that sort of 90 to 100, and he's good value for money. Bailey Williams is going to be expensive after this week. But the thing is, with Max Hall has a bit of a rough buy. Bailey Williams has a good buy, can provide you some ruck cover. Or was very tempted to chuck him in the B tier just for that as well. Brent Daniels, I think, for the price is really good value. And if now this week's also really important for Brent Daniels, because if we see Ash and Lockie Whitfield now, they're both back into the side. Last week we saw Ash go into defence and Daniels go into the midfield because of that, because of Whitfield being out. Now that Whitfield's back, I would love to see if Daniels maintains his midfield minutes and maybe Ash goes back into defence with Whitfield. If he gets midfield minutes, Daniels can score well. His body is a bit of an issue though. So that'd be a value pick, sort of like a spec. I think for the price, he's a good option. Zach Bailey, I think he's gonna. I think he can. He has to get better than what he's been dishing out. Brisbane will get better. They have to win now as well. Brisbane, like, there's not going to be resting players. Like, they're going to push for a final spot at this stage. And they're definitely pushing for top 4. So I think, to me, he's their most damaging sort of midfield forward. They need to get him up and about. Murphy Reed, as good as he's playing, he's only averaging 90. He's someone in my team, so I feel like, I think he's just that little rung below at this stage. Doesn't quite get enough sort of contested ball, but he's obviously a really sort of damaging player when he has the ball out in space. Justin McInerney's dropped off a little bit. I'm just not 100% confident in McInerney, and you'll have Goulden coming back in soon as well, soonish. I think that run home might be rough for McInerney. Horn Francis is an interesting one. I think he could be tier B. He's got the role. I'm always conscious of the role. That's what I want in a player that I bring in, because I want there to be at least the potential for them to score them points. I don't think that's why Tuke Miller gets me a little bit worried in the BT, because I don't know if he has the potential to go those massive scores, because he's not going to be really attending centre bounce with the big 3 that they have there. So one thing to weigh up, Horn Francis is getting the centre bounce attendances. He is probably their best midfielder outside Butters. So I think he's an option. And now with Jagger Smith getting centre bounce attendances, if you have him, I think that's gold. But if you don't have him, I think he could be considered to trade in. For him, he's going to get enough of the ball. It's just how he uses it. I think he can improve. I think he's a possible option at that sort of F6 spot for sure. And then the D tier, they could have fit heaps in here, but I've got Sparrow, Darcy Wilson, Elliot Yeo, Josh Kelly, and Josh Shelley. There's injury issues around them, sort of Sparrow's first season. There's a role issue with Darcy Wilson. Darcy Wilson's probably the one that can pop up further in the list. Rochelle, I'm just not confident in at all. And then if there's anyone else that I've missed out on, I've probably left them out for a reason or just didn't think that they were too relevant. You've got players like Colby McKercher and stuff like that that could possibly, with a role change, be decent. But for now, this is what I'm going with. My personal preference and what I'm going to be doing this week is using Flanders' money to get to Matt Rowell. And then I'm going to hold off because personally for me, and as you can see in my team, just give me 1 second. As you can see, when my team lines up at full strength after Flanders, it's going to be Pickett, Reed, Sheasel, Petrarca, Murdoch, and a rookie. So I'm holding Murdoch up until he's bye, probably at this stage, and Flanders is going to go down to a rookie, and then I'll end up getting rid of Sardis probably after this week to Matt Rowell, leaving me some cash in the bank to do some trades further down the track. Rowell coming off his bye, I think, is a really good option and good value for money. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I don't want to trade in a forward that I just don't want. And next week I'm only missing like 2 players because of the bye, 2 premiums. So even if I did bring in someone this week, say I was to bring in a Tuke Miller or a Jason Hall-Francis, I still have 18 premiums next week playing with all the rookies as well. So is it really worth it for a chance to get maybe 10, 20 points and then for the long haul running home, I'm going to have a forward there that I don't want. And there's other options for me to upgrade. So I want to bring in Matt Rowell next week. So as long as I'm making my team better and I feel like I'm not trading to someone that I don't want. And it works out for me to bring in Matt Rowell after his bye. And the forward that I want to bring in is either Rankin or Treacy. So I'm eyeing off Treacy after his bye. Because I have other positions to fill. I want to fill those last 2 midfield spots that I'm going to have before I find someone to field that sort of F5 or F6. Then I'll carry Murdoch for a long sort of portion of the season. That's how I'm going to approach it. So I'm going to be planning to use Flanders as downgrade this week to get to Rowell into the midfield. So I hope that helps you guys out a little bit. And you can use that tier list to sort of go off. There's just things to watch. I think be very mindful of watching Ross. I think very mindful of watching Brent Daniels over the weekend. The other one for me is Riley Sanders. I think Riley Sanders is a fantastic option. He's a phenomenal option. I think he's going to average, without Libba in the side, I think he averages 100 plus. For me, I'd just be worried that Libba is going to come back at some stage. I really doubt Libba's just not going to play for the rest of the season, and Libba can't really play in any other position, so we'll definitely take midfield minutes away from Sanders. I don't think he'll take them all because Sanders has been doing phenomenally, if that's a word. But I would just be mindful that he does, and he also has a horrible bye. So for me, I'd just be bringing him after his bye. And sort of I'd be confident at that stage. Maybe if Libba still hasn't come back by after the bye, maybe he's not going to come back and play anymore. So I think that's sort of the direction that I'd be going. We can touch on the scores that have happened already. The rookies have like really stunk it up so far. So while it's loading. So Sinclair, fantastic for those that brought in Wilkie. That's really, really good as well. Darcy Wilson had a good game. Max also the 2 forwards that we just spoke about. I think they could be options and are quite good players. Jesus, give me a fit in the corner. And then we also have Carroll has been a pretty good rookie in the end, very sort of up and down, but 82 is going to make some more cash. Marshall, I don't really see as an option unless De Koning. If De Koning was to go down, Rowan Marshall is a lock. Banfield, so a lot of us traded him in, and he only got 36. Some people have Henry 26. So those rookies really struggled. And then for the Hawks, not many Supercoach relevant. Probably Sicily is probably the most, I suppose. 127 points for him. Newcomb with a 98. What's not too bad. Maybe Will Day in the future. He's an awkward price though, pretty expensive for what he is. 83. If we have a look, some people have Reeves, so I suppose 67. And then the rookies, so Bailey McDonald 51, Nan got 42, and Flynn Perez with a 30 for those who still have him. And then I think, and it was unfortunate to have Bodie Ryan get pulled out of the side. And then we have a look at the Blues. We had Dirksen get pulled out, so that really sucked for our super coaches, my super coach especially. Obviously, I had him in the side, and anyone else that traded him in. Cripps was phenomenal. How good was he? That was a mammoth mark in the last week. I love Cripps, man. He's a beast. So that was really good. Walsh, decent. So I feel like that's his score, right? 104. I feel like he scores that every week. 104 to like 94 is like his thing. Newman, 89. Who else is relevant? Jagger with an 81. Had 27 touches. Just butched the ball. Went at 59%. I think that's his thing. He needs to clean up his possession. I think that'll come with time, though. Billy Wilson, some people might have gotten into 76. And then Jack Ison had a little bit of a down one, only 6 touches, 42 points. Kicked the goal, though. Bailey Smith just keeps getting on, 119. He's been unreal. Just even in a down game, he's good. 35 touches, runs all day. Went at 66%. So he cleans that up a bit. That turns into a 130, 140. So he was unreal. Tom Stewart spent so much of the last quarter off, only 72% of game time. Him and Max Holmes got stuck on the bench at the end of the game. Just seems bizarre that, sort of the last sort of 10 minutes of the game and these guys are spending, these last 15 minutes of the game, these guys are spending like 10 minutes of it off. Surely they can find a way to get those boys on or just not have them on the bench at that stage of the game. Other people that are relevant from the Cats, Bruin 51, so disappointing for anyone that's held him. Edwards 49, so not great from him either. Yeah, a bit of a quiet one apart from that. I don't think there's many other players that many people would have. Moving forward, other big sort of topics would be Sardis coming back for the Bombers, Max Heath getting dropped for the Demons. I think that's really nice. Tim English coming in for the Dogs. So just be mindful of those things. Like watch those over the weekend, see what happens, and hopefully we see some good footy for the rest of the round. Anyway, I hope that helped. I hope you guys sort of got an idea of where my team's going. The other thing that I should say is that I changed my captains. So I initially had Grundy as my vice going into Nick Dacos. I'm now going to go Nick Dacos as my vice into Max Gawn as the solo ruck, playing at Traeger Park in Alice Springs. So against the Giants. So against who was their ruck there? Briggs. So against Kieran Briggs, I think he's going to tear it up. They did bring Leclerc back in, so that's an interesting proposition. But I just think it's Max Gawn should dominate. I'm not even going to overthink that. Max Gawn against Kieran Briggs is all I need to hear. So I think it's just going to take the piss, to be honest. So that's the way we're going. We're tracking for nearly 1900. I think anything sort of near that mark is going to be sort of decent score. So hopefully we can get 1900 plus. And then go from there. So apart from that, take it easy, guys. Hope this video helped a little bit, and I will catch you guys soon. Take it easy.